Now, Lindsey Clancy came out into the news as the mother who has systematically strangled her 3 children. She has called them in the basement, lined them up, and strangled them to death one by one. Now, I'm not a pearl clutcher, I'm not an ambulance chaser. I understand that in a nation with over 300 million people, batshit insane cases exist. And so when I heard about the story, I didn't really care that much about it. I mean, sure, it's sensational, which is why it's in the news. But, like, it happened, right? Like, it's going to keep happening. And statistically speaking, it would be impossible for cases like this not to happen. However, what happened next is why I decided to make the video. You see, a lot of women decided to start donating to her. And at first I thought, well, maybe they think she's innocent. Like, maybe they think that the law has gotten it wrong. And that maybe her husband was the one to do it. And there were a couple of internet conspiracies in which they pointed out how she locked the door to her room afterwards, even though she was alone. And, you know, a lot of indications that suggested that maybe she didn't do it and the husband is setting it up. But then she confessed. Now, okay, look, fair enough. Like, I understand the American legal system, right? A person confessing doesn't necessarily mean that they did it. Usually the way it works is that you can have the prosecutor say you'll get the chair or you're going to get life. But if you confess, you get only 10 years. So a lot of people under the strain, especially when advised by their lawyers, can actually confess just to get a lighter sentence rather than find out what would happen if they go to court. But in her case, no, I'm pretty sure that she did it. And most of the people know that she did it and they donate anyway. And so here you have an example of a lady that donated $800, who is a single mom who lives off ramen, but sometimes she has a little extra. So she donated to this woman who has been fairy dust to help her get justice. Her heart bleeds for her, something I can't describe, so other people donate to be free, blah, blah, blah. Another lady donated $5,000. If we don't be her voice and get loud and fight for justice until Patrick is in prison for the rest of his life. So, and you can see some of the donations reflecting that. Like here you have a lady that's donating $800, despite the fact that she is a single mother who lives off ramen. And sometimes she has a little extra, so she donated so that the woman seeks justice. My heart bleeds for her. Something I can't describe. Hopefully other people donate as well to free the woman from hell. Another lady says she donated $5,000. If we don't be her voice and get loud and fight for her justice until Patrick is in prison for the rest of his life, then we have failed as a nation. And it can keep happening. And we need to put a stop to this. Keep up the fight and stay loud, America. So, in other words, like, these people genuinely think, right, beyond a shadow of a doubt that she's innocent. Like, they do not believe that she killed her children. The thing is that she later on confessed. Now, I will say fair enough. If you understand the American justice system, a person saying they confess doesn't necessarily mean that they did it. The way the American justice system works is that you can have a prosecutor come up to you and say, you can get the chair, or you can get life, but if you confess, we can tone it down to 10 years. And so a lot of people under pressure or being advised by their lawyers, they're saying, hey, take the deal, confess. Even if you didn't do it, right? Like, confess. Once you understand this aspect of the American justice system, then you understand that confessions usually do not necessarily mean that the person has actually done it, which is why there have been a lot of people that confessed, and later on they were found not guilty. Right? So, like, the system is definitely not perfectly designed. However, in her situation, I would say that I personally think that she did it. And more importantly, there have been people donating even after they themselves believed that she did it. And so those people needed different copes. One of the copes is that after giving birth, women go crazy. Postpartum depression is real. We're going to talk about that. And the other cope was that she was on medication. Okay, so I'm going to actually have a complex conversation about what happened, because if people genuinely want to fix something, they need to understand all angles of the issue. And the issue is not necessarily black and white, and it is true. If people genuinely do not want to understand what happened, it will happen again. So simply saying women bad, women baby murderers will not fix the problem. It will keep happening regardless of what people say. So why is it that women indeed sometimes kill their babies? Matricide, right? Or infanticide. Well, there is this thing called postpartum depression. Now, a lot of people will say, well, how come historically women did not kill their babies? Why is it happening now? What is wrong with the modern woman? Well, I'll tell you what is wrong with the modern woman. It's called a C-sec. So when you have a C-sec, which a lot of women actually prefer having now in order to avoid the pains of childbirth, the hormones in the body do not release properly. And so when you pull the baby out via a C-sec, the female body believes that they lost the pregnancy. Now, this is not something intellectual or emotional. It's hormonal, right? And the hormones actually regulate the way a person behaves. So, like, the woman genuinely, it's not that she's having the gloomies or the sads. It's like she generally experiences that she lost the pregnancy and her body goes insane. Not every woman, obviously, right? But a significant percentage, to the point where you actually get situations like this. This is not excusable because despite of the cocktail of hormones, people can still control themselves, right? Like, you can actually suffer an adrenaline rush, but with enough willpower, you can control yourself. And so, despite the fact that they do these things, it's still understandable, and it could actually be prevented if we had less C-secs, right? So, in Romania, most doctors actually do recommend women have natural pregnancies rather than C-sec. Another problem, and this one is actually something that the Anglosphere is currently dealing with, is the family unit. You see, believing that the family is a mother, a father, and a child is actually wrong, historically speaking and culturally speaking. Human beings, for most of the time we were on Earth, in fact, like 99% of the time we were here, we did not live in families of two. A lot of people are bitching that, you know, you have single moms and that a family is with two. No, a family is not with two. A family is usually with 4 or 6. The grandparents have to be involved in the raising of the child. Why? Well, anyone that actually did have children, so we're not talking about people that imagine how it's like to be a parent, but people that actually did have kids, would realize that the first year when having a child is actually extremely difficult, especially for the mother. My wife had it very difficult, and I was there for her. The problem is that the baby wakes up in the middle of the night constantly. This causes sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation causes a lot of anger in people. There is nothing that the man can do because the woman has to breastfeed. And so she's constantly waking up during the middle of the night. Like, if she doesn't get support, she doesn't sleep. Now, in a normal family, traditionally speaking, in a family that existed since before the medieval age and even all the way up until the Industrial Revolution and even a little bit after, consisted in like 8 or 10 people living together. That baby would have been taken care by other people consistently. Like throughout the day, that baby would have changed 9 or 10 different hands. And the people around the woman would make sure that she behaves like a good mother. Like she would never actually have the privacy to be alone and chimp out, regardless of her hormones. Like people would notice. People would immediately go and try to calm her down, right? In a family where you don't even have the grandparents, where you're living alone, the grandparents aren't even involved in the raising of the kids, creates problems. Again, it's not justified. Like, obviously, many women can do it. But most of the cases that I know from women that have committed infanticide, because I worked at a hospital and I've known such cases, almost all of them, every single one, was the woman either living alone or living alone and her husband. Never have I heard the grandparents also being there. Right? Now, again, this can be fixed. Like, these are the solutions, but they're uncomfortable solutions. We have to go back. We have to go back, and people don't want to go back. People enjoy modernity. Well, modernity comes with these types of trade-offs. And finally, the worst trade-off, and this is what I actually think ended up killing the kids, the woman was on medication. And society today is too ready to medicate people. Like, immediately, boom, a problem. She has the gloomies. Give her pills. The pills that she was taking were pretty severe. Like, they do have some really nasty side effects. And unfortunately, those side effects manifested. Now, you can say that's no excuse. Sure, but like when you add all the non-excuses together, you can see that, statistically speaking, when applying it to a population of 350 million, you're going to get a percentage or two that are going to be affected by the non-excuses. And morally speaking, yes, she should go to prison. But can we prevent it from happening again? Yes. Do people want to prevent it happening again? Not really, because they're not ready for the conversation. Right? And so this is where we are. The fact that she made $1 million, $1 million, that doesn't surprise me. It's the internet, right? People don't actually know her, don't actually talk to her on the internet. There are no people, right? It's just text on the screen and emotional stories. And there is this thing where women connect to each other regardless of the situation, right? It's like the sorority. And so out of 350 million, you will find like a couple of percentages that are mentally ill enough in order to give her cash. Take into account that, of course, the sensationalism helps as well, right? Like when a person suffers something and no one knows, then they're less likely to be helped. A person that is now, part of a movement and you associate her with feminism and all the feminists, they need to stick together, well, that person is going to manage to raise money because that's how the internet works. I don't think your mother would give money to this lady, right? And your mother is a woman as well. But I have a feeling that your mom wouldn't sympathize very much with what she did. But yes, I have seen women complain and say, oh, well, this is horrible. Like, people do not take postpartum depression seriously. It's true. People do not take postpartum depression seriously. There isn't a lot of research done for it. Because why would you need to do it when you can give pills to the person, right? If the person is depressed after birth, give her pills. The big pharma needs to have a living, right? There needs to be some doctor that takes a cut. There needs to be some grifter that sells the pills, right? Why try to convince women that giving birth naturally is good or that having a child at an early age is better, right? Of course not. Teenage pregnancy, horrible. Having a kid at the age of 40 when you don't have grandparents is actually recommended, right? Experts say. Okay. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, we'll see each other in the comment section. Take care.